r/AskReddit. What is the strangest thing you've seen someone do on public transport? Tiny elderly Chinese woman was carrying a live chicken by the feet in one hand and a shopping bag in the other. Tried to get on a bus and the driver stopped her. They argue back and forth for a bit and finally she lets out an exasperated growl, breaks the neck of the chicken, stuffs it in the bag and shouts at groceries now. A woman on the London tube brought 3 live ducks in harnesses onto the carriage. They were just stood there chilling and quacking away. A guy kept yelling no. Every time the bus stopped at a bus stop, he yelled yes. When the bus stopped at his stop, now arriving at Woodbridge Stay, no. Now arriving at Elm Creek, no. Now arriving at Jefferson Station, yes. Dude across from me takes everything out of his backpack while kind of muttering to himself. I figure he's looking for something. He then proceeds to put the backpack on his head. Guess he needed to take a closer look. I saw a young woman get on, early mid-20s, obliterated on drugs. She sat far back behind me so I didn't hear anything. And the next thing I know some musclehead is yelling for the bus driver to stop the bus and was manhandling an old mid-50s guy off the bus. Musclehead started yelling, "Get this creep off the bus. He's back there kissing a passed out girl." Although in 10 years taking the bus this is the most I've ever witnessed happen, so the bus is genuinely a safe place to be. Little did you know his biggest muscle was actually his heart. The heart is the strongest muscle. I was on a sleeper train going from Hamburg to Rotterdam and woke up in the middle of the night to a 60-ish-year-old German lady violently playing with herself on the bunk opposite while staring into my very soul. I just pretended to go back to sleep. I wasn't asleep. She knew. Bonus. In the morning when we arrived and were leaving the train she winked at me. I think she liked you. What makes you think that? She may have been Canadian. In Melbourne, I've seen a lot of people chroming on the train. Upfield line, represent, which is where people inhale paint cans or petrol, usually from a plastic or paper bag. One day on my way to uni, I saw the guy inhaling from a paper bag. Oh, another chroming dude. Awesome. I dismissively thought to myself. Suddenly he pulls a sandwich out of the bag and begins eating it, then throws the bag away. Mother ducker was just inhaling his sandwich. 2 guys get on the same train carriage as me. I'm sitting behind them. It's mid-morning and the train is quite full on this Western Sydney line. Nonchalantly they pull out a kit consisting of syringes and spoon and cook up right there and then. They have their hit and then proceed to each spark up a smoke and not even acknowledge the other passengers. Someone must have called the police because a couple of stops later the cops met the train and come and pulled the guys off. I once saw B fly onto the DC Metro land on a seat. It hung out there for one stop and then took off again when the door opened. I even took a picture.
Buzz buzz.
He needs to take his feet off that damn seat. I live in Detroit and I saw a grown man pull a fish out of a bag and slap a girl with it. Honestly, I was scared for my life. A guy was standing next to me with a model train, modeled after the V-Line trains in Victoria, Australia, that he just bought. Proceeded to strike up a conversation with me, telling me about how he was bitten by a dog, sued the owner, and used the money he got to buy the model. He even showed me both the bite wound and took the model out of its box to show me. A strange experience, but also quite interesting. Sniff petrol while yelling "go away" to no one. Giant homeless woman started to bathe herself on the F train. She stripped down on a moderately full car and used 2-gallon jugs of spring water and a roll of paper towels. Little rivulets of homeless lady funk streaked across the floor as everyone raised their feet, wishing the train would come to a stop quickly. I stayed in Istanbul for a month. During that time, I came to the conclusion that some women lean back to back to avoid harassment. My first encounter was very weird though. It was very crowded and there were only 2 other girls there. Without saying anything, they wiggled their way to me and both leaned their back on my back. Not gonna lie, I was quite spooked. Haven't experienced it anywhere else. Edit. To avoid further confusion, I want to add that I'm a girl. Sounds kind of nice though, that they have that kind of support for each other. Also kind of sad that they have to do that to avoid harassment. Watched a guy pick up hair from a plastic bag and eat it. Police entered the train and arrested him, and it turned out to be his ex-girlfriend's hair. Edit. Not arrested perhaps, but taken off the train and questioned. I reckoned it was an ex-girlfriend because it was female hair and the man was sobbing. A woman got arrested for allegedly injecting strangers with an HIV syringe, but the whole thing was known by everyone who used public transport in my city. People made group chats just to warn each other about the HIV lady. IDK what happened to her, but hopefully she got arrested cause that week was insane and a lot of people were saying they got stung. Yeesh. I once saw an elderly guy pushing an old man in a wheelchair in the underground. The man in the wheelchair wore sunglasses, not a sunny day, and had staring eyes behind them. He also had his feet crossed in a way no old man would have. His hands were really pale and folded on his lap. I could not see him breathing. But the strangest thing was that the elderly man was holding the old man's head the whole time. Not gently, but really holding it with his two hands as if it would fall off. I still don't know if he was dead, a puppet or really sick, but it was somehow really scary. Not strange but amazing. A girl with no arms below her elbows sat in front of me. She was carrying her lunch in a 7-Eleven plastic bag. She opened her bag, took out a sandwich, that kind that you get in 7-Eleven, opened it and started eating it. Also she took out a juice box, put the straw in it and started drinking. She enjoyed half her sandwich before she noticed that her stop was coming. She wrapped the sandwich carefully, put the juice box and the sandwich in the plastic bag, stood up and left, all without help from anybody, without making a mess, carefully and gracefully, with no hands, using what nature gave her and with no expression of self-pity or anything like that. She was the master of her life. Saw an elderly, homeless woman get up from her seat, start yelling and screaming, then start stripping. Unfortunately I couldn't get off the train to switch cars because she was blocking one end and the conductor was at the other end. Eventually, we get to the next stop where I see police waiting. I switched cars and didn't look back 16 months until I leave NYC, not that I'm counting or anything. A guy on a train, seesawing back and forth saying, "I will kill everyone, everyone. The streets will be flooded with blood. The day will come close. I will kill everyone. No mercy, no survivors. A fist for everyone. Even the innocent. The innocent will die," and so on. I saw a guy, about 15 years old, chubby and always wearing a light blue t-shirt, entering a bus line I was taking a few years ago, actually several times. When the bus stopped and the driver opened the door, he just stood there with his little suitcase, staring at me or another passenger and said, "Take my suitcase in." "No please no, can you?" Just a straight order. I thought that he had some kind of disability and that he couldn't carry heavy objects, but once I grabbed his suitcase it was pretty light and as I said, he was not looking like a weak guy. I expect everyone to be able to do this on his or her own. This happened several times and I have no explanation why this guy always had his little suitcase with him and why he always wanted others to carry it for basically 1 foot, and also why he was behaving this strangely. Kinda late, but it would have to be DDLG roleplay. Both were mid-30s and heavy set, dressed like middle school dweebs, and the lady even had a pacifier. She kept asking her daddy repeatedly, baby voice and all, if they were at the park yet. That's not even the worst part of it. She would give her pacifier to her partner and he'd slob on it, heavily, and put it back in her mouth for her, and she would make this weird crooning noise. I'm shivering already just remembering. In Sydney, these twin brothers got on my bus. They were clearly homeless and pissed out of their brains. They both looked like Bob Ross. So one stood at one end of the bus and the other one at the other side, both screaming yuck, and ran like a rattlesnake in sync for a good 20 minutes. Public transport at its best. I saw an elderly lady pull out a can of Lysol, spray her armpits, then lift up her skirt and spray it between her legs. No reaction or acknowledgement for what she just did. I moved to the next car. Lysol, a disinfectant consisting of a mixture of crystals and soft soap. I saw a man take his shoes off and clip his nails on the train. Left his nasty nails all over the seat and floor once he got out. There is a special place in hell for people who leave their toenails lying around. Saw a guy sitting in front of me on a double-decker bus play with himself. He wasn't even trying to hide, just straight up jerking it there and then. I have nightmares where I'm that guy, like I'm mid-wank and realize I'm in public. A lady with a rat in her hoodie and she was whispering to it, "Be quiet. I don't want to get in trouble again." and a guy was behind me with his phone and his beanie playing Screamo really loud in his ear. This was on the one bus. Rural Australia is weird sometimes. Somehow a chef's hat would be more appropriate. I once saw a guy jerk off while smoking. That's pretty damn weird. You usually have a cigarette after you've jerked off, not during. Plot twist. Dude only had one arm. Please ducking like and subscribe.